I work with companies that manufacture building materials. And one of the most common things that are expressed to me by the founders is that they want to build a legacy. They want to build a company that's going to persist long after they're gone, long after they've retired. They want the name to remain constant and mean something to the community, to the industry, and to everyone around them for years and years and for generations and generations. And this is the question that I always pose back to them. What is the one thing that you are known for that is beyond the physical product that you sell? If you sell lumber products or steel products or concrete products, what is it that the name of your company evokes? What is the idea? What is the promise? What is the feeling that is associated with doing business with your brand that is beyond that transaction? Because that is what builds a legacy. The businesses that have endured for generations and generations do not last because of the transaction and because of the physical product that they make. And yes, excellence is a requirement. It is the price of admission. But excellent products are not what builds a lasting legacy. And what I've learned from my clients is that they tend to over-index on functional specifications of their products, because what they think is that if we just make the best product in the market, that excellence in that product plus longevity in the market is what is going to build a reputable brand. Now, those two things are required, but those two things are not memorable enough to transcend and to create a legacy that lasts for generations. And so if you're a founder or a CEO in this space, I want to challenge you in this video to think beyond the product that you make. And I'm going to give you some examples and some scenarios and some ideas that you can start to think about if this is something that you want to work on, because it's something that you want to build actively. Building a legacy takes time, and it takes consistency, and it takes repetition. That's what creates memory. It's not something that you do one time or seasonally or something that you do for your best customers. It has to be repeated over a long period of time in order to build that brand. So let's talk about some of the brands that you are familiar with that have lasted for generations, and let's see what they do really, really, really well and what the recipe is to create that identity. So some of the oldest brands that are popular today are not popular or have not built their identity based on the actual products that they sell. Buc-ee's, for example, is known for their large facilities and their clean bathrooms. Those are things that they provide for free. They don't make any money off of people using a clean bathroom. But today, that is one of the reasons why they have such a huge following and why so many people want to go to Buc-ee's. Even if they don't want to buy something, they want to be inside of a Buc-ee's just because of that reputation that has been built. Another example is Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is notorious for great customer service. They are so consistent with their customer service that people choose to go to Chick-fil-A just because they know they will be greeted by a pleasant employee and they will feel good when they interact with the employees at Chick-fil-A. Has nothing to do with the food that they sell, which is also great quality. The brand has been built on a reputation of great service. That transcends anything that's on the menu. Another example is Costco. Costco has a reputation of treating their employees like people. They have a reputation for always fighting for the rights of employees, for paying them fairly, for treating them well. And that is a reputation they have built over time by continuously and consistently putting people over profits. That was never a marketing strategy. That was never a product aligned thing that they came up with. It was always a culture and a value that they did so well that they came to be known for it. And today, people will shop at Costco just because they know that. That has built their brand beyond anything that they sell inside of the store. And so let's talk about brand building as a part of a long-term strategy. Because if you want to build a brand that is bigger than you, the founder, and bigger than the people that work there today, day, this brand has to be built on something that is tangible, something that is felt, and something that can be built consistently over time. And so let's look at some of the examples and some of the things that you can start to think about for your own business. And so one of the ideas that I want to put forth is that you don't declare what you're going to be known for. People notice patterns and they build stories around those patterns. The annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade does not sell anything. No transactions can be traced back to that event as an advertising or as a marketing strategy. But because they show up in the same way every year for hundreds of years, that isn't marketing. That's a promise. That is consistency that is noticeable and that builds the brand. And no matter how many different ways the business itself pivots in terms of the products that it sells or the services that it provides, the fact that they still carry on this tradition every year on the same day, in the same cadence, that is brand identity. That's brand stability. That consistency is the brand. It is a reputation that continues to carry that brand year after year after year for generations. Your reputation forms from the unexpected thing that you do repeatedly. The fact that people can rely on your brand or your business to do something every single year without fail is what builds that reputation, is what creates that memory that will carry that brand for years and years into the future. And Macy's is an example of a brand that still sells what it started off selling. In other examples, the products have changed or have evolved over time, and the company has continued to survive based on the brand reputation alone. IBM is a good example. They don't sell mainframe computers anymore. They have pivoted from hardware to software to now selling services. But because of the strength of the brand when it comes to trustworthy intelligence for business, they have been able to pivot over time to serve the immediate needs of their customers well beyond the product that they started off with. These are decisions that were intentionally made at a point in time when they decided we are going to build a brand based on these values. We're going to build a brand that will continue to provide trustworthiness in business intelligence for years and years, regardless of the product that we're selling, how the market is behaving, and any other outside factors. And that's how they've been able to maintain this reputation of being a powerhouse in the business services industry. Another example is National Geographic. They don't sell print magazines anymore, but because they built a brand that is known for exploration, credibility, and visual excellence, they no longer have to depend on that product that they started with in order to continue serving their clients and to enter new markets. And so now they are a streaming platform. They have licensed educational content. They're on social media. They have all these other different streams of income just based on the brand reputation alone. People to this day still take nature pictures and animal pictures and claim that they want to be featured on National Geographic, even if Nat Geo is no longer a print magazine. But because of that name, that reputation, that brand identity, people still want to be associated with it regardless of what business they're in today, of what they're selling, what they're not selling. It is that brand that continues to live for generations to come. And so now let's talk about how you can do something similar for your company. As we talked about, you can't really declare what you're known for. It is people that see the patterns, see the things that are very well done repeatedly and consistently that then start to notice and create stories around those things. And so the first place to start would be to look for patterns. And I would encourage you to ask yourself, what would still be true about your business if your entire product line changed tomorrow? What are those things that you do that are beyond the transaction, that you do very well and that you do repeatedly and that have been noticed by your customers? That is the best place to start because it gives you something that you're already doing that you do not have to now invent. And if you don't have anything like that in the present time, or you want to start to think of new ideas, I have 5 ideas that you can start to think about that can amplify your brand identity. So the first idea is around the transformation that you provide to your clients, regardless of what you're selling. What is the transformation that your clients experience once they have used your product, or in the process of using your product, or in the process of doing business with you? You might deliver a service that is so outstanding, so different, and so unexpected that it completely changes the routines of your customers for good. And an example I can think about is Uber. When Uber changed the way we pay for taxis or cab service, when they integrated the payment into the app, it completely changed the way we travel. Before, you had to make sure that you had money for the cab plus money for the tip in cash so you can pay the driver. You might have been able to pay using a card, but most people preferred to at least tip using cash. But when Uber came along, it completely changed the way that we manage that transaction, and even the way that we set up our routines when we are planning to travel from one place to another. That is a service that is not even their core product, but because it came bundled as a convenient piece of what they offer, it completely changed the way that we behave when it comes to traveling in a cab. So that is something that could be assigned or that could be associated with your company and the way that you deliver a service that is so significant that it changes the behaviors of your customers. That creates a lasting impression that will carry that brand for generations to come. And so think about the transformation that either your process or your product or a service that you offer, and if that transformation is significant enough, it is going to build your brand. Your customers are going to notice. Your customers are going to start telling stories about that transformation. One change completely transformed the way that they do business, the way that they run their processes in their shop, the way that they construct, the way that they build. And that is going to be a building block in your brand success. Okay, number 2 is rituals. What rituals are associated with the way that you serve your customer, or with the way that you package your products, the way that you deliver your products, that are significant and that are noticeable? These are things that you do repeatedly, consistently, and in the same exact way. I'll give you an example. If you've ever stayed at the DoubleTree by Hilton, they offer every guest a warm chocolate chip cookie on arrival. Doesn't matter which room you book, doesn't matter what time you arrive, doesn't matter how many people in your party. Every guest gets a chocolate chip cookie. And because it is so consistent and so reliable, it has built their brand. There are people who will stay at the DoubleTree specifically because of that cookie, but also because of that emotional attachment of knowing that that one thing will always be there. They can always be relied upon to provide that one service that is not even part of the room that they're selling. It's not part of the transaction, but because it's so consistent and that it's offered to every guest every time, no matter what time, that is something that builds their brand. It is associated with service. It's associated with excellence, and that will never be detached from the DoubleTree brand. And the reason it's powerful is because it's so unexpected. You would expect that something that they do consistently would be directly tied to sales, would be directly tied to the product that you're buying, and that it will have some sort of effect on your next transaction or the next time you come in. But this is just completely unnecessary. They don't have to do it. It's something that they choose to do just for the pleasure of their guests. There's no strings attached. Anybody that books a hotel room, regardless of the type, regardless of the price, will get a warm homemade cookie. So think about some rituals in your business. They do not have to be tied to the transaction. And in fact, if they are detached from the transaction, if they're completely unnecessary, if it's something that's completely unexpected, that is what creates what we call talk triggers. It's what creates moments where people want to take a picture and send to their friends, or text somebody and tell them, guess what happened? And word of mouth is famously the most impactful marketing tactic out there. If you can get people calling their friends, calling their relatives, calling their loved ones and saying, hey, guess what happened to me, and encouraging them to interact with your brand, that is going to be better than any marketing tactic out there that you can come up with. Okay, so that's rituals. All right, so another way that you can build your brand is by studying what your competitors are not doing very well and then over-indexing on that thing. Now, it could be something that's associated with the way that they do business, the way that they serve their customers, but it could be something completely different. If we go back to the example of Buc-ee's, Buc-ee's is a gas station and a convenience store, but they noticed that when people went into gas stations, one of the least favorite part was going to the bathrooms. The bathrooms were either not well maintained or they were very bare minimum. No one ever looked forward to using a gas station bathroom. And so they did not just take that idea and improve on it and just create a better gas station experience. That would have been nice. But they took that idea and completely ran with it. They made it their brand identity. They said, look, we have the cleanest bathrooms in the world. You have to stop at Buc-ee's just for the bathroom. And again, that's free. That's a free service that they offer. They don't make any money from the bathroom. They don't get any return on what they invest in making their bathrooms the cleanest bathrooms in the world. But because they stood on that and they delivered so consistently on that promise, they built a brand on the back of that. They built a brand on people wanting to stop at Buc-ee's, people wanting to experience something so radically different from what they have experienced that they then started to even love the products that Buc-ee's offered, that they started to tell people, they started to take pictures, they started to spread the word about this brand that is so committed to providing a good bathroom service, a free service. They didn't have to do that. They could have made their bathrooms half decent and people would still have been delighted, but they made sure that they went over and above. They created a radically different experience. So ask yourself, what is it that your competitors are doing that you could not just improve on, but that you could actually create a platform out of? Find whatever it is that your competitors are either ignoring or that they're not doing quite as well, and 10x that experience for your customers and see how your brand grows. It has to be consistent. It has to be delivered every time. It has to be reliable and it has to be unexpected. The unexpected piece of it is what creates a story. It is what creates the word that spreads around and continues to grow your brand. All right. The fourth thing is community building or creating a sense of belonging with your customers and your clients. So a lot of businesses will just do repeated transactions over and over. And yes, they know that they have valued customers or key accounts or, certain levels of customers, but they never really make those customers feel like they belong and that they actually are part of the business. One brand that has done this really, really, really well is T-Mobile. When T-Mobile launched the On Carrier campaign, what they wanted to do was to let the customers know that we are not like those other carriers. We are on your side. And they made that explicit to say that we are on the customer side. We do not do contracts. We do not charge for overages. We do not charge for roaming. We are not like them. We are giving the customers what they want at the price that they're able to pay. And what that did is that it created a sense of belonging, a sense of community with their customers. And they go a step further. And I know this because I have T-Mobile. And every time I call T-Mobile customer service, they make it a point to remind me, thank you for being a T-Mobile customer for X number of years. However many years it's been when I call, I don't call that often, but they make it a point to remind me, you have been a T-Mobile customer for this number of years, and we appreciate that. Every message that they send out, every campaign is focused on not being like the others, being on the customer side. We're doing this because we are on your side. They recently raised the rates by $5. They had a long-standing service that they only charged $50 for, and they raised the rates by $5. But they made such a huge commitment to their customers and to inform their customers why they had to increase the rates. And I don't think they lost a single customer even by increasing their rates, because they are so committed to making sure that they are on the customer side, not just by their words, but also by their actions, but also how they speak to the customers, the service that they provide to the customers, how they defend their customers against all of these other predators that may be charging their customers unwarranted fees. And so they go beyond the thing that they sell to the customer to make the customers know that we care about you. We're not just selling you a product, but we also care about you, about your well-being, about making sure that you're not paying for things that you should not be paying, and that we are going to always be on your side when it comes to certain things and when it comes to certain ideas. Think about all of the ways that you can create community with your customers. What are the things that you have in common that you can invite them into and make them feel welcome, make them feel like they belong to this community that sees them and understands them? I would caution against creating something just for the sake of creating it, because then if it fails in authenticity, then it's going to backfire. Then it's going to actually hurt your brand. So this is one of those things that you have to really think about. T-Mobile launched the Un-carrier campaign in 2013. It's been more than 10 years and they're still as committed as they were on day one. So think about what is going to last and what you can deliver on consistently for your customers. That is what creates the story. That is what builds the brand. Number 5 is language. And what this means is consistently using certain words or phrases or certain prefixes to either refer to your products and services or refer to the way the brand does business in general. And these words and these phrases or prefixes define the brand. They're associated with the brand and they are permanently attached to the brand. They create memories and they create instant recognition. One of the most popular ones is McDonald's, and the way that they add Mac to everything. Well, mostly everything. McDonald's has been able to diversify their menu and change it up so many different times by just lowering the risk when they add Mac to something. And when they do that, it creates instant association, instant recognition, and it lowers the bar to entry. It allows people to try the product without risk. And it instantly boosts sales of products that are not their core product, products that are not burgers. For example, McNuggets, McChicken, McRib, McCoffee. Do they call it McCoffee? I wish they would have McTea. That would be nice. I would have that. So anyway, you can see how they use that language or that prefix to instantly introduce new products into their market, to their customers, and that creates a brand identity. If you were to mention a product that started with Mac, even if it was not a food product, the first thing that comes to the person's mind would be McDonald's. And even though McDonald's still creates good quality food, that brand association has carried it for generations. That brand identity that allows them to use this language to continuously evolve and continuously introduce their customers to new products. That is what creates that repetition and that reputation of providing good service. That lasts longer than the actual products that they started with. And so in conclusion, if you haven't started working on a brand identity, today would be a good day to start. A lot of CEOs think doing brand work and brand identity and anything that has to do with branding, especially in the construction industry, they think that's optional. They think that is something that you do once you've done everything else. But I would challenge that, because a brand is something that today in itself holds value without having being attached to any product, any service. If you have built a brand that is recognizable in this age of AI and big data, Brands hold value on their own. Brands will elevate your business without necessarily spending any dime on marketing. So this is something that you want to start working on. You don't have to rush into it, but you definitely want to think about, what is it that I want to last longer than either my leadership in this company or any products that we're creating today or anything that will evolve over time? And the best way to do that is to create something that is not tied to a product. Because as we know, products change, products evolve. In the age of AI, there's so many ways business is shifting, so many ways products are shifting, and you have to keep evolving in order to serve your customers. So it is best that your brand identity is not tied to one single product or tied to the way you create one product or all the products in your lineup. You want to make sure it is something that builds your reputation because you do it consistently. Consistency is the key here. And so you want to ask yourself, 20 years from now, after you have either retired or you have moved on to other things or you're no longer with us, what is it that remains? What is it that is associated with the company that you built that continues to last through generations, that continues to carry your business, that continues to bring you more business, that continues to grow your business into new segments, into new products, into new markets without necessarily holding on to that transaction or holding on to that one product association? Think about the Macy's example. Macy's could change so many things about the way that they do business. They could change business locations. They could change their products. They could change services that they offer. But the Macy's annual Thanksgiving Day parade will forever be etched in their customers' minds, will forever carry the brand for generations and generations to come. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade costs millions to put up, and it sells nothing. All it does is build that brand. And that brand is worth more than the amount of money that has been spent on those Thanksgiving Day parades. That is all for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.